What if the moment everyone has been waiting for was never meant to be announced, only witnessed? It didn't arrive with a press release. There was no official confirmation, no carefully chosen words from management. Instead, it surfaced the way the most powerful truths often do, quietly, unexpectedly, and impossible to ignore. Wang and Shen Yue, caught in a moment so unguarded that it left fans around the world stunned into silence. Right now, right before the next revelation, is your chance to stay connected. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another powerful story, another shocking twist, or another unforgettable journey. This is not just another update. This is the kind of moment that reshapes a story people thought they already knew. For years, their connection has lived in a strange space between fiction and reality. On screen, their chemistry felt effortless, almost dangerous in how real it seemed. Off-screen, they walked a careful line. Respectful, professional, just distant enough to keep speculation alive, just close enough to keep it burning. And then came this moment. It happened without ceremony. No red carpet. No stage lighting. Just a brief slice of time where guards were down and attention was elsewhere. Those who saw it described something subtle, but undeniable. A shared glance held a second too long. A quiet exchange that didn't need words. A closeness that felt instinctive rather than staged. Not a performance. Not fan service. Something real. Within hours, fragments began to circulate. Reactions poured in not as screams, but as stunned pauses. Fans didn't argue. They didn't analyze frame by frame. Many simply stopped and stared. Because some moments don't need explanation. What made this update so powerful was not what was shown, but what was felt. There was no exaggeration, no dramatics. Just ease. Familiarity. The kind of comfort that only comes from deep trust. The kind that can't be rehearsed. And suddenly, the narrative shifted. For the first time, people weren't asking if there was something between them. They were asking how long it had been there. Those close to the industry know how rare this is. Stars are trained to be careful. Every gesture is watched. Every interaction dissected. To let a moment slip through unguarded means one of two things. Either the stakes no longer matter, or the feeling outweighs the risk. That is what left fans speechless. Because this didn't look like two celebrities managing an image. It looked like two people forgetting, if only briefly, that the world was watching. Wang, often known for his confidence and controlled presence, appeared softer, less performative. His attention fully anchored in the person beside him. Shen Yue, usually so composed and gentle in public, seemed uncharacteristically at ease. Not performing warmth, but resting in it. And that difference mattered. It felt like a window opening, then closing just as quickly. Enough to change everything. Not enough to be denied. The aftermath has been just as telling as the moment itself. No denial. No clarification. No attempt to redirect attention. Just silence. And in an industry built on noise, silence speaks volumes. Fans have begun to reflect rather than react. Revisiting old interviews. Remembering shared projects. Reframing past moments that once seemed ordinary. Patterns are emerging where coincidence once lived. But beyond speculation, something deeper is happening. People are responding emotionally, not because they feel entitled to answers, but because they recognize authenticity when they see it. In a world of curated intimacy and manufactured closeness, this moment felt unscripted, human, rare. And perhaps that is why it has resonated so strongly. This is not about labels or declarations. Not about confirming what fans want to believe. It is about a shift in energy. A quiet acknowledgement that something meaningful exists, whether it is named or not. Sometimes, the most powerful stories don't climax with confessions. They unfold in glances, in pauses, in the way two people stand just a little closer than necessary. And as the world waits to see what comes next, one truth has already settled in. Whatever Wang and Shen Yue share, it is no longer just a rumor. It is a presence. Felt. Seen. And impossible to unsee. And what followed was not an explosion, but a hush. a collective pause across fan communities, as if everyone instinctively understood that this moment was different. There was no rush to claim victory, no loud declarations of proof. Instead, there was reflection. Because when something feels genuine, people become careful with it. What many noticed next was timing. This moment did not appear during a promotional cycle. It was not tied to a release date, a fan meeting, or a public appearance designed for visibility. In fact, it surfaced at a point when both Dylan Wang and Shen Yue had every reason to remain guarded. Careers at their peak rarely allow for vulnerability. Yet vulnerability was exactly what slipped through. And that is why it mattered. Industry insiders often say that the hardest role an actor plays is themselves. Off-screen, there is no script to lean on, no director calling cut when emotions run too close to the surface. To be caught in an unfiltered moment is to be seen without armor. That is what fans believe they witnessed. Not a reveal, not a statement, but a fracture in the carefully maintained distance. Some described it as tenderness, others as familiarity. But nearly everyone agreed on one thing. This was not new. It looked practiced in the way comfort always is. Like something that had existed quietly, growing stronger outside the public eye. And then came the ripple effect. Old moments resurfaced, not as evidence, but as context. Interviews where answers softened when names were mentioned. Behind-the-scenes clips where laughter lingered a little longer. Public interactions once dismissed as coincidence now felt threaded together by something unseen at the time. The narrative was no longer being constructed by fans alone. It was being reinterpreted. What also stood out was restraint. Neither Dylan Wang nor Shen Yue made any attempt to capitalize on the attention. No cryptic messages. No teasing posts. No indirect acknowledgments. In an era where visibility is currency, they chose privacy instead. That choice speaks volumes. Because when something is real, it does not need amplification. It only needs protection. Fans, sensing this, shifted their tone. The excitement remained, but it was quieter, more respectful, as if everyone had silently agreed not to push, not to demand answers that were not offered. And perhaps that is the most remarkable part of the story. It has become less about confirmation and more about recognition. Recognition that connection does not always announce itself. That intimacy can exist without explanation. That two people can share something meaningful without owing the world a definition. There is also a deeper layer to why this moment resonated so strongly. Both Dylan Wang and Shen Yue have grown under intense scrutiny. Their images have been shaped, reshaped, and sometimes projected upon by millions. To witness a moment where neither seemed to be performing felt almost radical. It reminded people why they fell in love with them in the first place. Not as icons, but as humans. And now, the silence continues. No follow-up. No correction. No clarification. Just life moving forward, slightly altered by a moment that refused to be ignored. Maybe one day, there will be an explanation. Maybe there will be none. But either way, something has already been established. This was not an illusion created by editing or imagination.
It was a shared space and time.
Brief. Unprotected.
Real.
And in an industry built on spectacle, that kind of authenticity is rare enough to leave an entire audience speechless. Sometimes, the most meaningful updates are not announced. They're felt. And once felt, they change everything.